Hello and welcome to another episode of 2 Minutes with Tim here on Heavenward Thinking. Today, we're in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 18. Last week we looked at verses 16 through 17. This week we're going to have our challenge on verse 18, so I'll read it and we'll get right into this week's challenge. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. Again, this has to do with our perspective of life and what that is supposed to be like as Christians. Where are we supposed to focus our attention? What are we supposed to be looking at? How do we look at difficulties and how do we overcome those difficulties? And all of that can be found in this verse and the verses we looked at last week about perspective. Here we see that we're supposed to fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. And then it goes on and says, what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. And that has everything to do with how we look at life. Everything that we can see here on earth, all the challenges we go through, all the difficulties of life, even all the good things in this world, all the great moments that we get to have, the things we can see, they're just temporary. Eventually this world is going to pass away. And then what is to come? What will we have done? Eventually you and I are going to die, or the Lord's going to take us to be with him. And what becomes of everything we've done? Hopefully we lived our lives in such a way as to keep our attention on what is unseen, an eternal reward, which we talked about last week, the eternal glory that outweighs everything in this life. Hopefully that's where our focus has been and not on what is seen, because what is seen is going to pass away. That's just temporary. But what is unseen, as this verse 18 in 2 Corinthians chapter 4 says, it's eternal. And that's how we get a different perspective than everyone else in the world around us, where people are focused on the temporary things that bring satisfaction, or are so focused on all the negative things that are temporarily afflicting them. We can look beyond that. We can look at what is unseen, the promise that God has for us that maybe we can't see physically, but we know that one day we have an eternal reward, an eternal life with God, and we get that amazing reward going through all the difficulties that we have in our present life. And again, as we talked about last week, it far outweighs anything we can go through. So hopefully you and I can have a perspective where our eyes are fixed on what is unseen, not on what is seen and what is temporary. That's my challenge for you this week, and I hope you'll join us next time for another episode of 2 Minutes with Tim here on Heavenward Thinking.